Ready.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Critique. Actually, I don't know if can be called a critique episode. We got to come up with a good name for our Thursday hangouts because I just got into my critique stream. I was ready to press the intro video and everything, but no. Today's client first. We're gonna dive into a live demo. We're gonna do from a blank page build. So we've got Joe, as usual, is here with me, and then Harshit. Harshit's going to be building in the background, and we'll be asking questions, answering questions from the crowd. Joe and I will be kind of commenting on what's happening, doing color commentary, explaining, maybe zooming in and around the screen and whatnot, and just sharing a little bit about how this is built. Joe, what are your thoughts here before we get started?
Well, I'm excited to do a from scratch, from a white canvas build in client first. We've had people asking for this, and that's exactly why we're doing this, to show you how to start a brand new project. So this is a new format for us, coming directly from what you're asking. So very exciting for me.
Yeah, and Jonathan's got a real good point here. Make sure you go ahead and hit the like button if you're watching the video. If you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Due to the survey we did last week, we're going to keep experimenting with a Thursday format. And so, we're going to just be all over the board trying to create value-added content as it relates to Webflow. So Harshit, what are you thinking about as we get ready to do this first live build kind of hands-on thing?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this, Remar. We are going to make the Chromebook website today. It's simple, clean, and very attractive. And we are also going to discuss different factors affecting the naming of our class. So it's going to be a fun interaction with the whole community, and I'm really excited for that. That's all I have for now.
Nice. Hey, Harshit, can you share the link to the site we're going to build? And I'll throw that up on the screen real quick for people to take a look at.
Sure.
You can send that in Slack or however you feel. Yeah.
And I love hearing this word interactive and interaction with the audience. So audience, if you're listening, ask questions, make comments as we are building. We can answer that. Harshit's going to be building. We're going to be commenting, and that means commenting on his build and commenting from your questions. So let's make this really interactive. This could be a really good experience for everybody.
Oh.
And also, I do not want to forget this.
Harshit, can you send that to me in Slack, please?
Yeah, sure.
All right, go ahead, Joe.
I don't want to forget, we have just released a new clonable inside the client first resources. So I will share the official resources page as well as the new template. So this new template, of course, follows client first naming convention. It is our template number 4, and it is for a portfolio. Maybe you're just starting out. Maybe you need a portfolio upgrade. You want to go in, make some edits, replace the photos, and now you have a new, fresh portfolio. So go check that out. That was just released today. And as we have said before, we are going to continue releasing these types of resources for you.
Nice. Yeah, and again, that's available over at the finsweet.com/client first URL that Joe just shared in the box there, but we'll go ahead and put that up on the screen for the folks who might be watching as well. And that'll be in the comments there for anyone to grab, but you can go and clone that from the Webflow showcase as well and jump right into that project to learn and explore some of the things we're going to go through today. And let me copy this link. This is the site we're going to build today. So this is the site that, Harshit has put together for us to build. So yeah, whenever you're ready, Harshit, if you want to go to your screen share, we can jump into that, and I'll, we'll just open it up. Any questions you all have in the comments, feel free to start jumping in here with what would you like to see? What are you interested in kind of getting deep dive on as we go through this today? So feel free to leave those thoughts in the comments for us, and we'll get to it as we go. Harshit, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm ready. So I will start sharing my screen. Here we go. So, Joe, you will be helping me with the narration, right? So I can I will be
Yep.
focusing on the build.
Absolutely.
And is zoom level okay? Is zoom level correct? Everything is visible?
Yeah,
I think
and I'll bounce around the
let's
screen
give
a
one
little
more
bit
zoom
too.
here.
So, oh yeah,
Okay.
you can maybe zoom.
Can you
once
give
more
one
if
more
you want
zoom?
there.
Is
Yeah,
that comfortable?
yeah.
Nice.
Go. Is that good? Okay, nice. Let's do this now. Okay, so let's start this build. I will start with the nav bar. Okay.
And you can see that he is starting here with our core structure. We start with that page wrapper. That's really useful for containing everything on the page, quickly copy and pasting from page to page, maybe even applying an overflow hidden to prevent that horizontal scroll. And inside the page wrapper, we have the global styles. This is global CSS styles that you can go put on every page and manage globally inside that symbol. And you can see that he has this nav component outside of the main wrapper. This is for accessibility purposes. We see that main wrapper, we're going to have a lot of that Chromebook content in there, but outside of it, we have our nav and we have our footer. This is not part of the main wrapper in terms of accessibility. You can see we have this nav component class, nav underscore component. This is telling us this is the outermost div, the outermost wrapper of our component. And anything inside that's a custom class that needs to be created for the nav will use that nav prefix. So you can see right there, we have the nav underscore container. That's telling us that this container is not just any container for the build. This is the container for the nav component. And you'll see that as he continues to add things in here, we're going to continue using that nav underscore. Nice comment from Corey. Love this idea to do a live build. Lizzie, very excited for this. Great. Me too. This is a test for us. This is a brand new format. And I don't know what we're like 3 minutes in. I'm already enjoying myself. Nice. So we have nav link. Look at that. We have the nav underscore. This is a great way to stay so organized. One of the reasons why we use this prefix with the underscore is so that you can search for all of your classes that have to do with the nav. So Harshit, you don't have to do this now, but after you build the nav, you can search nav underscore, and the styles panel is going to return all of the styles, all of the classes that have been created specifically for the nav. Great. Okay, so we're adding some assets here. Let's actually jump back up a few levels here to page padding. We can see that we have that page padding decoupled from any of our custom classes. And this way, we're going to be able to manage that page padding globally throughout the entire site, the entire page. So let's say we started off with 2 rems left and right for that page padding. At the end of the build, maybe we want to change that to 3. Having that decoupled is going to allow a full global change to this type of style.
We're getting
excellent.
Getting a couple questions here. Jonathan's asking, why don't you use a list for the menu items? Harshit, is that something you want to address?
Yeah, so I actually prefer using Flexbox here for the nav bar, okay, instead of list, because that's kind of simple. We can arrange them inside this nav menu, and we can set this nav menu to a Flexbox, even if we have some kind of drop down, because in the real website, it's a drop down here, right? So we can have it as a drop down, and we can set is this nav menu as Flex. That is going to be a much easier option. Yep.
I also find a lot more flexibility not using the list. The list could work for instances, absolutely, but sometimes you run into an issue with what Webflow allows you to do inside that list.
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly. Yeah. So for the containers, Joe, we also have to. Yeah, please go ahead, Ramer.
No, go ahead.
Yep, I was saying that for nav container, we can actually do two of the things. So as you see that I have made here nav underscore container. So when I do that, I will have to set a max width here based on my container size. So let's say I will go ahead and choose container large. I can see that container large is 80 rems. So I can set the same styles to my nav container as well. So I will set this to 80 rems and 100%, just like this. But if you don't want to create a separate nav container class, you can have container large here and then have a combo class is nav bar or something like that. But to have more flexibility, we can also go with nav underscore container. Both of them will work. Yeah, this is a small point that I wanted to mention here.
And I also love doing a custom class for the nav container. I would not recommend doing this through all the sections of your build or having a whole bunch of different containers, but for the nav, this is something that may have to change very quickly, that may need a lot of flexibility, that may not follow exactly all the rules of the rest of the content on the site. So having that custom class for the nav specifically to contain that content, I think is a great move.
Nice. Awesome. So I would also like to show a very small thing here. So I'm actually inspecting the site to see the sizes here, so that it's 14 pixels is 16 pixels, right? And inside our designer, we can directly calculate the size in RAM. So let's say the nav link is 14 pixels. I can type here 14 divided by 16 RAM, and it will calculate the value for me inside the designer itself. So this is a fast way to get RAMs inside the designer.
Yeah, I think that's a good trick.
Nice.
Go over that one more time, just to show. Yeah, let's take that a little slower for folks to show how you're converting exactly from those measurements into REM. Because I know a lot of people, the relative measurements is something new for how they're approaching, with this system. So walk us through that again, real slow.
For sure, Remar. Okay. So as we know, by default, one RAM is 16 pixels for us. Okay. So whenever we want to convert a pixel value to RAMs, we just need to divide that value by 16 and we will get that. And in Webflow, we can do the calculations directly inside the fields. So if I'm calculating a width, so let's say I will go ahead and do the same thing with a heading. I just created this heading for now. I will style it later. Okay. So let's say I have a heading. I'm checking the size of this heading that says 84 pixels. Now I want to convert this value to REMs. I don't want to look inside a table. What I can do is I can select the heading. Inside here, I will type 84, that is pixel. I will type divided by 16, and then I will hit enter. So if I have pixel here, then I will have to type RAM. And if I have RAM, I can just divide the value directly. So I will hit, and you can see it's 5.25 RAMs. It gave me the value directly, right? I don't have to open a calculator here as well. So this is a fast way to do that. And if you think your value is going outside of 4-point system, then you can select the nearest value. So in this case, if I want, I can go with 5 RAMs. That actually depends on you, how much you want to follow the 4-point system, right? From our side, it's highly recommended to follow the 4-point system. But yeah, this is how you can do it inside the designer itself.
Nice.
Very nice.
Okay, we're getting a question here. I thought you used pixels exclusively. Did that change? Joe, you want to address that?
Yes, it did. And I'm about to go and share the write-up for why that change happened. In short, the change is for accessibility. We are taking accessibility very, very seriously. And when we were presented with the information that pixels can never truly be fully accessible, we made that change instantly. So we have a whole bunch of different resources as to why we made this change, how this change is not very difficult. And it looks like my camera gave an overheating signal, but I am still here. I'll just turn that off for now. But yeah, we are officially in REMs. We have calculators for you. We have write-ups explaining why this happened. Go check out that link I shared in the comments.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, I do want to go back to one thing, and we might need to look into this because Jonathan is bringing back up the list issue. And I've heard this before too about accessibility, menus being a list, something about how the screen readers treat lists and the ability to kind of tab through menus. And maybe Alex can address how we've, how we're thinking about that in the comments, unless Joe, you have a thought there.
Sure. I do know Alex will explain it better than I can, but yes, list by default will have those tab options to very easily go through those menu items. However, you can apply attributes to these to tell the screen readers how to navigate through the menu. So maybe by default, these link blocks are not following the same accessibility practices as the list, but we can add the attributes to them to go make that happen. From my understanding, that's the equal trade-off. But please, if that's not correct, jump in, tell us what you think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's also go. We're getting a couple things. Let's see. Susan said I missed.
Let's jump back in.
Yeah. Go ahead back into the build.
Okay.
Harshit, just remember to slow down here because we're trying to show people the process. We're not just trying to show how fast you can move here. We want to make sure people are understanding what's happening. So let's make sure we walk through all the different sections of what's happening.
Sure.
Okay,
yeah,
so
in a good place.
Yeah, let's open this back up. Let's just make sure we understand this nav structure. Harshit, if you can open up the page padding there, and let's just look at everything you have in the nav. I want to make it now really clear that all of these custom classes that have been created for the nav is using nav underscore and then what it is, what it's being identified as. The brand link, the menu. If you open that up further, we have the left wrapper, we have the link. Using directions like this left and right can be very helpful if you don't know exactly what to call it. What do we call this on the left? It's the left wrapper. And if you have things on the right, then you know that that's not the thing on the right. And you see we have the link in there. We have the right wrapper, link. This is all really, really well named. And if we want to make something else when we go to mobile, we're going to continue using that nav underscore. All right, that's the nav setup. Let's continue on through this header. Does anybody have any questions about the nav? But Harshit, let's continue on with this header.
Sure. Yeah. Nice.
And so that nav came together real quick, huh? So the nav is essentially just, it's done.
Yeah. And Harshit, when you have a chance, inside the styles panel, go ahead and search for nav underscore, and let's show people how nice it looks to see all of our classes related to the nav. So instead of having this mismatched feel of all these different classes and trying to figure out where these classes come from and how to find a class that was made for something, we have a beautiful list of every single class created for the creation of this nav. So that is a really powerful part of using this prefix system and using this component naming. Nice. All right. And as we continue in here, let's zoom in inside the main wrapper. Now the main wrapper, let's make sure, Harshit, that we have the main tag applied to this element inside settings of this div. If we go over to the right of the screen. There we go, main here. So this is why we have the main wrapper. It has a purpose. It's accessibility driven, and it's giving it a tag of main. By default, when you put a div inside Webflow, it's going to be tagged div. We're going to change that to main to tell screen readers and for accessibility, This is the main part of the page, the content, the reason this page is what this page is. And that's where our heading is going to go, our features, our content, everything that is explaining what this page is about. And we start first with a section. So back on that left side, you can see we have section-home header. And you can keep building through here, Harshit. I'll explain a little bit about this section home header. Section home header.
Sure.
This is really a navigator. And you know what? Actually, Harshit, would you be able to have that Chromebook page on a different window so that it actually doesn't leave Designer? I don't think that we need to see the switching back and forth.
Okay.
So maybe pull. Is that possible? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we can just focus on this.
Yep. Okay.
Section home header. The reason why we have this section layer is so that we can easily identify all of the sections on a page. And right now we just have one. We're in the process of building this. But when we have the full page, when we have multiple pages in our build, we get to that page, we want to get to a certain section. We want to get to the header section. We want to get to the feature section. We want to get to the call to action section. And labeling these is going to make it really easy to go do that. So if we go down a little bit, we're not in the right area here. Yep. Section home header is saying this is the home header of the page. And you'll see when we add more of these sections to the page, it's going to say, let's say home header, feature 1, feature 2, call to action, contact, whatever it is. So when we open up Navigator, we'll have a list of our sections and we can click on them and very quickly go to that section. So this is a Navigator thing. This is great for clients. Our clients love to be able to navigate through sections, almost like anchor scrolling. And the term home header, a really good thing that Harshit did here is he's using the component name inside that section name. So you can see we have section home header, and just under that, we have the start of our home header component. Now, this is not required. You don't need to have the section name as the same name as the components inside. Maybe there's a lot of things going on in this section, but this section is all about the home header. So let's keep those names together. Let's have a unified name for this home header. And you can see home header component. Now notice when he adds this heading 1 inside here, there is no class on the home heading. And you can see this margin top just under. There is no custom class on this. We don't need to have a custom class called home header heading 1 or home header paragraph. We don't need to class everything. We only want to create custom classes when we need to create custom classes. And usually when we have our text, we have our typography, we want to use our global system. And that's why we see the base H1 tag. And we saw that text color blue. That's got to be a span on that switch. So the span of switch, text color blue, we're not creating any custom classes here. That's usually what we want when we are creating these texts. And now look at this. We have the margin top. He now has a nice list of what to do next. Do we have a margin small? Is it a margin medium, a margin large? What is going on here? And there we go. So again, not another custom class. We just don't need custom classes for most of our text. And there we go. We have now a custom class, but this is not part of the home header. You can see we have button dash wrapper. And what that's telling me is this is not a class specific to the home header. This is not being created for the home header. And for me, knowing client first, this is telling me that Harshit has intentions to use this class somewhere else in the build. Maybe it's somewhere else on this page. Maybe it's in another page. Maybe it's something set up for the client to go and add themselves. but it's not the home header. It's not a custom class inside a component. It's just a custom class. And it's super, super general, button wrapper. It's not talking about a page. It's not talking about a section. It's just button wrapper. So when we have buttons, maybe we use the button wrapper globally in those button instances. Great. And there we go. Now look at this shaping up. So we have our header. We have our paragraph. We have a very flexible margin that we can change when we want to. We have this button wrapper class, which could be a really powerful global class for us later on in the build. Awesome. And do we have any questions here that we want to address? Harshit, do you have anything that you want to say?
A few folks earlier were talking about line height.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that we haven't really addressed. They were talking about how to set the height in the line height for the text, and I think how that relates to rems. And then somebody else is asking here about well, let's answer that one, and then we'll talk. Somebody else is asking a different question, so let's talk line height first, and then we'll get to the next one.
Okay, so okay, I will answer this. So to control the line heights, the best way for us is to manage that using our style guide page. So we have the style guide page with us, where we can actually style. If you notice that we have some sample text here, the reason for this sample text here is the line height, so that we can actually control the line heights. You see, we have two line of text here on H2, H3. We have these kind of text all over the place. So you can directly come inside the style guide page and you can control the line height. You can set up the whole style guide for your project directly from here. For the global tags, you can do that when building the website as well. It's not a mandatory process that you come inside the style guide page and do that first. You can do that simultaneously while building the website as well, right? And once you have a pretty good idea about what are the sizes and line heights that you are using inside your project, you can jump inside the style guide page and set it up for rest of the part. So this is how we do the line height, and it's good to set the line height in unitless quantity. So we have this unitless option right here. So it's good to set line heights in unitless. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And yeah, the other question that came in, let's see, Edgar was asking, how do you determine the no, that wasn't the one. That was the one we just talked about. There was one who was asking about vertical height. Let's see, right here, Nick. I want to see how you set the height of a hero section using 100 VH or some kind of calc. I'm not sure that we did set the height of a hero section. But yeah, do you want to answer that, Harshit?
Yeah, for sure. So again, there are multiple ways to set the height, but for hero section, if let's say our hero section is taking 100% VH, then we should probably set that in our home hero underscore component. So if I want 100% VH section, I will delete this button wrapper. So if I want 100 VH section, then I will set that here on my home header component. I will set a minimum height and not a fixed height, so that it can expand if it needs to. So this is how I will do it. But if I just want to set up some padding in top and bottom, I can do two ways. I can go with two options here. I can drag a padding vertical div inside my container, just like this. I will type padding vertical. Then I will select the size. I will go with padding XX huge, and I will place my home header component inside that. And see, if I feel like it's looking too big, then I can always go back and change my padding size. So I can go with maybe large. Let's go with large. Right, large. There we go. So this is how I would manage the sizings of my home header.
Nice.
And you can see, leaving that in there, we can grab the home header component. We may want to use that somewhere else in the build and rename it. Maybe we actually find that this home header component should be a header on multiple pages, and we can call this header component or header one component. And we don't need to have that padding vertical. Maybe that padding vertical only is for the home page, and maybe the about page is a different padding vertical. So decoupling these styles from that class name is going to allow us to have different options throughout the build, and that component just stays with the content of that component. It doesn't really have that vertical spacing to it. It doesn't have that horizontal spacing to it. It's really flexible for reuse in the build.
Okay, great.
And a really nice...
Yep, go ahead.
A really nice use case of, let's say, this button wrapper. Let's say we did have these two call to actions, top and bottom, just like this. Let's say we had this. This was the build that we were doing. Having that class button wrapper is now going to allow us to manage the spacing for those buttons globally. So instead of having our spacing wrappers, we can say all of our buttons are now going to be respaced vertically because all of our site has these vertical buttons. And that's the power of then using a custom class for spacing rather than an instance-based class, which is like our global classes for spacing. That's not the case here, but that's a great use case for this button wrapper class.
And Harshit, before you start adding space to these buttons here, these elements that you've defined as, let's see what you've called them, let's explain how we're going to do the sizing here before we go, like these buttons. Okay, so what are these button text? These are like text buttons that you're building here. Let's define how you built these, and let's show people how you're going to add spacing here as you walk through. How do they manage that globally? Because I know a lot of times when you're building a button, maybe you'll put button and then you'll add a combo class like button left, and you'll have a flex container, a special flex container. Because I used to do this. I'd put like flex button wrapper, and then that would be how I would like put two buttons into a container that would be flex, and then I'd have a combo class on one of the buttons that was either like left or right, or I'd put like another div inside there that would be like gutter, you know, and then I would space that. So maybe explain how you're gonna space these and lay these out here globally so that it's not a bunch of extra classes.
Yeah, sure, Ramar. So, like you said, there are different ways to have these kind of button wrappers where we have two buttons and we have some space in between, right? We can create a grid for it. That is the option where we actually create the grid and we separate them with a space. Okay, this is the option number one. Then the second option is to have a gutter in between, like you said, where we can have a button spacer kind of thing. So I will take a div block and I will call it button spacer, right? Something like this, and I will give it space. But what I found is using this combo class where we have is left. I'm calling this is first. It can be called as is left. Let's call it is left. This way, it's actually easy to manage when it's actually more flexible, because when we have grids, when we go to the mobile screens or the landscape view, grid is not wrapping up themselves. We have to actually change their orientation, and because of that, some buttons, all of the buttons will actually stack over each other. We cannot control how they are going to wrap it themselves. Okay, but when we are going with a simple button wrapper, what we can do is we can set a flex box here and we can set them to wrap. So whenever they are overflowing the button wrapper, they will just wrap themselves automatically. So the best option that I feel personally is having a combo class that is left or is first, and then applying a margin to it. And that is also going to maintain the symmetry here. It's not going to break the symmetry.
Nice. Okay. Great.
And you should know, make sure it's very clear that there is no official right answer. These are different strategies. This is what Harshit wants to do based on this build. The grid option may be the better move for your build. Maybe there is a different use case for this. So remember, think through it. What's the best option for the build, for whoever's editing it? That's what Client First is all about, making decisions and smart decisions.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks for clarifying that. That's good. That's good for people to think about, because we always need to go back to showing that this is just about systems and guides. It's not about like a hard structure. And here, let's get to this question here. Giuseppe is asking, any reason why the button element is preferable to a simple link block?
Yeah, definitely. Number one, link blocks by default are not editable inside Webflow Editor. So this poses a serious problem when handing our sites over to our clients. That if we have this link block, maybe it's a very similar experience for our build, but the client actually won't be able to have full edit access to that element. Using this button element inside Webflow is editable in Editor. So this is going to give our clients more power to make these changes.
Correct. Nice. Okay.
I would also like to cover a very small thing here. So as we are using REMs in our project, there are some values that we cannot actually convert into REMs. Okay. So one of them is actually this distance inside our shadow. So as you see for these buttons, I am using shadow. I could have used this border here as well, but I prefer shadow here so that when I create a hover interaction, so it don't make the button jump up and down. Okay, that's why I'm choosing to go with a border, a box shadow here. And that's why when I go inside this distance, I set the distance, it will always remain inside pixels. It's not something that is client first. It is the default Webflow thing, or maybe default CSS thing. I'm not sure if we can set in CSS distance in rems, but here in Webflow, we cannot actually set the distance in rems.
Yeah, and this is something, again, there's a couple other ways to do this. This goes to your preference. This goes to, just the easiest way for you to maintain. Or maybe there's a specific aesthetic. Somebody in the comment here was saying that they prefer the link block as they can insert image inside of it as opposed to using like a CSS background. Sure, if that's the case, for a number of reasons, you might want to do something a little bit different. Just know that it does impact the client's ability to be able to edit that link or make changes down the road. But yeah, again, this is a flexible system. If you need a different way for a different reason, you should have the flexibility to do that within the client first framework.
Nice. Yeah. And we actually have some examples for those kind of buttons as well. So we have some buttons that we will actually use link blocks to have more flexibility. We are going to cover that very shortly. Yeah, we have those buttons as well.
Nice.
Joe,
you were going to say something?
And a great comment from Jonathan. Thanks for mentioning this. Be aware that the Webflow button is actually a link. It's not a real button. So we're not choosing this button element for accessibility because it's the button element. It's not. It's a link. We are doing it specifically for editor. And you're going to learn a lot more about this. If you're not sure about what this button element is versus a link element, we're going to make a lot of this clear when we release our accessibility add-ons to client first.
Yeah.
So thanks for that ad, Jonathan.
And this may be a good time actually to answer Daniel's question because it'll probably tie right into what you just talked about, Joe. And we've mentioned this a little bit, but let's give an overview and maybe we can reshare that article about why REMs instead of EMs.
Sure. REMs over EMs in client first because it is easier to understand. It requires less calculations, and we believe that our clients are able to use it much, much easier. EMs is not bad. I'm not saying that this is not a good measurement to use, but it requires a lot of calculations. There is some advanced knowledge to use it because EMs change based on the parent element. So if a client accidentally changes a parent element and that then changes how EMs works, this could be a very difficult change for a client and a very difficult thing to catch on to. So we have eliminated that from our workflow. We work in REMs. Accessibility is there. There's a lot of simplicity to the REMs setup. And that's really the primary reason for us.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Okay. So let's go back and see Harshit. What are you doing here? I see you keep trying to make like some Superman progress over here. Talk to us a little bit about what it is that you're How are you arranging and organizing these images? How are you handling spacing here? Are these just image blocks? Talk to us a little bit about what you're building and how you're organizing that here.
Sure. So I will dive here on the two parts of my home header component. So very first we have this heading. So there we go. So we have this heading right here, and then we have a margin top that is separating the paragraph from my heading. And then again, I'm using this button wrapper that you can see I'm using this 2 times here, and it works really well. And I have set this to wrap. So if my screen goes smaller, you can see that my button is stacked automatically. So this is the power of wrap feature that we don't get when we are using grids. So this is how I've structured the button wrapper. And now I'm working on the image wrapper of the home. So we have these 3 laptop images. So you can see how I am naming this. I'm naming this like home header underscore image wrapper that is going to wrap up all of the images, right? And inside that we have home header underscore image that I'm going to set width to. I'm going to choose percentage here so that my they are scaling with my browser. Right now you can see when I go to a little bit bigger browser, 1240, you can see they are not scoring right now. The reason is because they are not having, I'm using flexbox here. If I use grids, they will scale automatically, but to get a certain layout, I feel like flexbox is a better choice here, and I will go ahead and use the flexbox. So yep, let's see how it will look like.
Nice.
And I love that. I feel like it's the better choice. That's client first. Harshit has identified that this could be done with grid, this could be done with flex, but based on what we have here, based on this instance of our build, he believes that Flexbox is the better choice. And we encourage you to make these types of decisions with every single style that you apply. Why am I choosing this layout option over this layout option? Is there a benefit? Is there a benefit now, or maybe on mobile, or maybe when I reuse this on other pages? And when you start to make these decisions and you start to understand why you're choosing different things, that's when your Webflow game is going to get to the next level. It's going to make you think better and make better decisions for your build. So great job with that. I love hearing that.
Yeah, nice. Okay, and just
Nice.
to remind the folks at home, one quick second, we are building this google.com Chromebook website here. So if you're following along, you'll see it's starting to look very similar what Harshit has here versus what the original website is. And you can see that we're 42 minutes into the stream, and we've essentially built the nav, a custom nav bar, this hero section, and now we're just kind of arranging the spacing on this to once again match the Chromebook website, which is fairly simple website, but it just goes to show the power of what you can do with client first inside of Webflow really easily here. So yeah, go ahead and carry on. Harshit, back to your screen.
Nice. So yeah, I would like to show a few small trick that can help you again to boost your client first game. So you can see that I have uploaded these images. I want to calculate the exact percentage of these images. I don't have to assume that. I can just click on the percent button right here, and it will automatically actually calculate the percentages for me. So if I want to get percentage of this laptop, I can click here. Let's actually make a combo class for this laptop because they are right now having same classes. That's why they are getting resized. I can call it this one. I will call it laptop 1. So home header laptop 1. This I will call it home header laptop 2. See, I actually created a universal class there, like home header underscore image. That didn't work out for me. So I always have the power to create custom classes here. And that's how we are going to make our websites. It's not going to be, we can take clever decisions like this when working. So I feel like now having a combo class is a better choice here so that I can give different width here. So let's go with the combo class. And see, I just clicked on the percentage. It calculated the exact percentages for me. I don't have to calculate it calculate the percentages manually. And there we go. Now everything is scaling.
Nice.
Can you explain that?
And look at that.
Just one more time again, the calculating the percentages to control the width there. Can you just?
Sure. Yeah. So this is how I do it. I first created 3 classes here, and one of them is home header underscore laptop 1, 2, and 3, right? And then when I uploaded the images, they actually got uploaded in the default size. So if you see this, we have this option which says image in HIDPI, right? So when I upload these images, they actually take the default ratio. I will not say the default size, but default ratio. And what we can do simply, we can click on this icon right here, and we can select the percentage unit. So in Webflow, by default, when we click on percentages, it will calculate the correct percentage of that particular image. So this image is taking 28% of its parent wrapper, and same goes with here as well. And this trick applies to RAM as well. Let's say I want to calculate the width of this image in RAMs. I can click on RAMs, but now you see that it says 473. So this is again a small trick that by default Webflow calculates the pixel value for RAMs as well. So what we can do, we can just divide this number by 16, and the value that you see right now is the exact value of this image in RAMs. So that is 29.5, and then you can round it off to 30. So we can also calculate RAMs really easily like this.
Nice. Okay. And did that image format matter for that type of calculation? Just so folks, I just want to clarify, was the type of image format relevant there, or is this just a JPEG or PNG or what?
Yep, I'm using image PNG, and it works for all. Whether it's PNG, it can be any image format. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Okay, great tip. Yeah, what's next?
Arshit, I have a question for you. I'm curious why the home header image wrapper is a sibling to the home header component rather than a child.
Nice question.
I'm curious why that's not
Joe.
inside of the component.
Nice. Okay. So in this case, I actually needed to have this home header image wrapper outside. Actually, I want to place this even outside my page padding. The reason is so that it can expand outside the container as well. So if I go to my, if I show the bigger screen, you can see that it's actually limiting themselves on the container, but on the website, they're actually expanding the whole page. So I can take them outside of my page wrapper like this, and we can do that as long as it's clarifying where it's belong from. Okay, so it's the parent, you can say, is home header component. So as long as I'm clear that this is coming from home header component, we can place the elements outside as well. This is actually making a relation with its parent component. Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
So this is such a good use case of how decoupling the page padding, the container max width, the padding vertical, how taking these things out of that custom class gives us the power to quickly do this. It's always such a pain to have everything inside of your padding and then need something that's actually full width. So this is why we do it. And this is just a wonderful, wonderful use case of how he just dragged this in a different order. And now the default page padding is not being applied to this. Really, really nice to see.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and Carly was asking here, are we dividing by 16 because 16 is the base body font size? Correct. So yes. We're working in a relative unit that's basically contingent on that sizing. So yeah, that's the number we use to then calculate the rest of those calculations. And then nice. Nick is just saying, yeah, this leads me back to my question about how to simulate 100 VH. If that makes sense, I see how he's tackling this now, I think. Great. Okay. So you'll start to see that as it evolves. And a lot of times the things you might think are set to 100 VH are not like a fixed or height. You know, it could be the elements are just positioned, and you just want to make sure your image row is taking X percentage, and so you have two 50% containers, 50 VH containers, you're going to get to that 100 VH. And so it doesn't always have to be like a hard 100 VH cutoff for your main hero or anything like that.
And I can also show
Nick,
how we can do that with 100 VH. Okay. Yeah, Jay. Okay.
Well, I was about to say probably the same thing as you, so go for it.
Okay, nice. Okay, so we just have to rearrange few things. So let's say I want a 100 VH section. I want to make this hero section, the header section, 100 VH. What I can do is I can simply do two things here. I can give this size of 100, minimum 100 VH, my section home header, and I can then define a flex box to it, just like this. The second option that I can do is to take my home header component outside and make it the most top parent. Okay, so I just need to take all of this outside here, and let's make this the outermost parent, and let's see how it looks. Okay, so we might need to arrange few things here. So you see that it's not really I think working for me here. I might apply here align center global, but okay, this is not the right choice. Text center, text align centered. Okay, it's not working for me. So what I can do is I will just go back again, place my home header component inside, and I will simply apply the minimum height to my section home header, because that is also a custom class. And as long as this is a custom class, I can definitely apply a minimum section height here directly. So this is now my 100 VS section. If I want, I can also make this a home header component, and then, yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, there's, like Harshit said, there's several ways to do this. This is how I would do it. I would apply the 100 VH to the section home header, and then to make sure that it is true 100 VH, I would put a negative margin of the size of the nav component to make sure that those laptops would truly be sitting on the bottom of the screen. But let's not, I don't want to get too far into this. That's not really part of this build, or is it? I don't.
Yeah, I think let's just stick to where it is.
Yeah,
and let's keep
going here.
Yep.
Let's keep going.
Okay, sure.
So we started the section about. There we go. Look, we have our anchor scrolling almost in place. So once we start building out this about section, and then the next section, we start to have these sibling divs, section dash whatever that section is. And then when we open our main wrapper, we get this really nice list of sections so that we can very quickly go through that. And we're starting off inside of this section about with our page padding. Remember that page padding is optional. If we had another full width section, which I believe we do in this build, we can choose to add that page padding or not add that page padding. Inside, we have our container large, and this goes back to a question I just saw from, it was a few minutes ago, from Daniel Brasino. I missed the beginning of the stream. Did you add a max width to the container? This container large and the other containers that you find in client first have the max width value applied. So this container large, I believe, is something like 80 rem. And that's going to set that max width. That's what we're going to use the container class as our container for our section content. Awesome. All right, let's continue in here. We have that container, it's containing, and we have that padding vertical. That's going to create that vertical padding inside this section. The beautiful part about this is later on in the build, we can adjust that combo on top of the padding vertical. Maybe we want to change it a bit. And if we have something global like this layout to call, we don't have that padding direct on that class. So now we can use that layout to call somewhere else in the build, and we don't have to worry about it being defined with padding top and bottom. So this is a really great use case of why we are separating these important styles. And you can see layout to call. This is a really general class. And this is telling me that Harshit is probably going to use this class later on. Probably will be used for other layouts. It's a very general term, which means it will be used as a general component.
I feel like we need like some instant
We will
replays
also
and some like sports highlights here. It's like, oh, did you just see that div block? Let's watch that back in slow motion. We need some like some proper ESPN cutouts and graphics here. You know, we got to spice this up a little bit. Go ahead, Harshit.
Yeah. Yeah. So naming of this layout to call actually depends on a few things. Okay, so if you are building a landing page, your website is not going to scale up after the landing page, then you can name it more precisely. Like I can call it maybe about underscore component, because this is my about section. If I'm having a landing page, then I will call it about component. I will not call it layout to call. It will give me more flexibility. The website is small. I don't have to worry about future sections. But if you are going to have a bigger website, it's 5 pages and you are having reusable sections in them, then in that case we should prefer using these kind of classes that are going to be reused in other sections as well. So in this case, I'm going to use layout to call because I'm going to use this class in other sections in this page as well. So this is how we decide what to name our sections.
Yeah. And Giuseppe is asking a good question here that we might want to address. To keep that nice list of sections clean, I assume you never wrap those sections inside a margin dash direction size div, right? So how do you answer that, Harshit?
Sorry, can you please repeat the question, Remar?
Sure. So to keep the nice list of sections clean, section dash whatever clean, I assume you never wrap those sections inside a margin direction size div. So they're asking about the structure of those sections and whether you ever wrap those sections inside of another div that gives the margin directionally. And I think the answer to this is no, because the padding goes inside that, but that doesn't mean you couldn't. So I guess what do you say there, Harshit? What's the best practice for that?
Yeah, the best practice for this is our section is actually wrapped inside this main wrapper. So all of the section are going to stack below this. But to have the section padding, the best practice is to apply directly inside the section like this, padding vertical, padding huge. And in case you need a custom padding, let's say it's not working for you, so you don't have to stack up 2 or 3 classes to make it work. You just have to apply the section padding directly inside your section. Because this is a custom class, you can apply a custom padding here. If it's really you need, then just go for it. Apply a custom padding. Okay?
Right. And you may be, if we go back to that same question, they could be on the higher level, page padding. There could be reasons why you would want to attach some of that. But again, that's client first gives you the flexibility to do that. That's kind of the point of, just having this system here.
Yeah. And Giuseppe, I would encourage you not to wrap the section layer inside of a margin. Like we're saying, just apply it direct to that class or have that spacing nested further in. It's going to have the same outcome. It will be really good for you to keep those section layers all as siblings. We don't want to have them further nested in, because that really takes out the beauty of seeing what sections are on that page and how to quickly anchor scroll to them.
We're getting color commentary from the fans now. Jay, Bob, did you just see the on the fly in field conversion from pixels to rems? Wow.
Really amazing what Harshit is doing today. This guy is going to be special.
I can't believe how he's struck that Control Z. It's funny. I actually
Totally
see
unexpected.
Harshit clicking on the undo button manually. It surprises me that he's not a short key for the undo redo. That's like my magic in Webflow is always like anytime like I see there's no steps to undo, I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. There's nothing else to undo. You didn't have to be like that, Webflow. Why you got to be so rude? You're so cold. Okay. All right. So
Nice. So
back to build
Harshit
here.
went through this quick. Yeah, Harshit went through this quick. Let's let him finish up this section here, and then we're going to go deeper into what he did and break down these steps.
Yeah, and it looks like
It's
you're
a lot of the
using.
same steps that we did. Yeah.
What are you embedding here, Harshit? Talk to me about what you're embedding. Is this like a pop up? Are you trying to recreate something from the
Yeah.
Chrome website, or what is this here?
Sure. Yeah. So this is actually a play button that I'm trying to take here. So because this button inside, so I will bring the browser right here. So this is the button I'm trying to create here. So this is white right here. So when we embed the thing, we can actually control the color, and this is how we have our media nav links, media links inside our client first. So if you go to the style guide page, all of our social media links are actually embeds, and you can actually control the color directly from the text color. I can control the color from here, and that's why that's what I'm actually doing with the play button. It's not
Nice.
necessary. You can have a white button as an image, but it's more flexible. That's why I
It's
did
that
that very
next level
quick.
shit, y'all, because you're watching the Finsweet stream. Finsweet. It's the Finsweet. Finsweet stream. I have this bad
Yeah.
habit. Me and my girlfriend play a game where when we're talking, we just like combined words. And now it's just starting to happen naturally in my vocabulary. And I just like merge words sometimes when I talk, and I don't even realize it happens. So if you ever hear something like that, that's where it's coming from.
I'd like to hear more of that.
Okay. So I was trying to.
I think we should make that a thing.
Getting my merds wixed up. All right, Harshit, talk to us here. Harshit's like, shut
Okay.
up, y'all. I'm
So
trying to build.
so yeah, I was actually trying to show the use case of button link. So using a link block instead of button. So in this case, it's more flexible for me because I have this button icon right here with me. I will zoom it a little bit. There we go. So if you see this button icon, that's an image. So I'm not using the embed anymore because the embed was not having few attributes, and I will have to write them. So it will take some time. So I've just embedded an image directly here. Okay. So now what I did here, because
Hold on,
I
hold on,
have
hold
this
on.
image.
You just he literally just hyped up the embed with the color change functionality. That's the replay. That goes on the not top 10 list.
Okay. So there we go. So I'm using this image, and by the way, I have a hack for it. I will just go ahead and
It's
invert
okay,
this
man.
thing. There
There
we
you
go,
go.
Remar.
Nice.
Play it one more time. Play it one more time.
Wait,
Yeah.
we go with this one this time. And the viewer count is just dropping. I'm kidding. All right.
We've actually been at a solid 75 the whole time, which
I know,
means
it's
that
been-
I think 75 people are just watching,
Yeah, it's
which is great. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks if you're watching. Again, we're just experimenting with this content. Harshit is streaming to my computer, and then I'm streaming that back out to y'all, and then this is all happening. I should show you. This is all happening inside of a box on my desk. Actually, when Harshit, go ahead and do a thing. I'm gonna zoom out on my camera for the folks here, and I'll show this is the first test of my traveling stream rig here, so it's actually working pretty decently. I know a few folks were saying something about the image quality earlier, but I think that's because we're getting a 720 feed from Harshit, so when I zoom in, sometimes it gets a little grainy. But yeah, we'll continue to work to improve this. If you have any thoughts for what we can do as we go, feel free to leave them in the comments. We're always looking for feedback from you all about how we can make these streams better. And with that, I'll send it back to Harshit and Joe to just chat a little bit about what's happening here.
Yeah, let's and Harshit, before we get too deep into this, let's go back to this about section. Let's walk through how these new classes have been created. Let's talk about how we're using the global spacing here, and maybe we can touch a little bit more on why we would use that SVG icon and also the hack that you made to make it white. So let's look at this left sidebar. We have the layout to call, and inside we have about image wrapper and about content. Now, by Harshit not using the underscore here, this is telling me that this is not a component. This is not specific to this section. And I would think, knowing client first, that Harshit is going to be using this later on in the build. I'm sure we'll see that in the next section. But let's go into this content side of it. I'd love to look at the heading 2, the margin top, and then again, the use of this button wrapper. So we see the heading 2, no classes. This is exactly what we want. And if you open that up, we'll probably see that text color blue in there in the span. And then we have that, there we go, using global. And then we have the margin top just under it. We're not going to want to create new classes just to make this spacing on the text. There's no custom classes in this text. So we have the margin top, we have the combo of whatever we want, small, medium, large, whatever. And we have the paragraph nested. Again, no class, really nice. And then what I love to see is this button wrapper right under it. If you remember, inside that top section, the header section, we also use that button wrapper class. And we guessed it right, he's using it again. So now this button wrapper class is going to be managed globally. Maybe our client says, hey, the button is actually too close to all the paragraphs. I want that changed. And now we have one selector to go and make all of those changes. Awesome. So you can see how we really didn't create a lot of classes here. They're very simply named. It's obvious what they're doing. And we also just saw Harshit duplicate this section, and we have the same section below. So now let's go to this Meet OS section. Harshit, please continue the build, and let's see how he reuses some of these custom classes. Let's see how we continue to use what we've already built in this project. Oh,
nice.
Do we want to touch
I would also
the
like to
SVG?
talk about
some
this
comments around
about
these.
image. Yeah, sure. I will discuss that about too as well. Okay, so first I want to discuss about this about content, why I named this like this, about dash image wrapper. So as Joe said, that it's telling me it's not part of a component, right? So I could have kept that as a blank div, but I am naming this as about image wrapper to make it something relevant. Okay, so I'm placing here something relevant that actually tells me what this div is doing here. This is wrapping the about image, and it's not part of the component. I'm just writing this to make it clear. So whenever someone dives in our build, our client, or maybe me myself, I know that this div is actually wrapping the about image wrapper. If you think you can have a global image wrapper here, then you can just call it image wrapper, and you can use this inside this section as well. I can maybe call it image wrapper, and then I can use this here as well. But again, when it comes to recommended practice, then we should try to name this based on the section to have more flexibility over it. And I'm going to do the same here. So for this section, I'm going to call it let's call it Meet OS image wrapper. So this is saying that this is not part of the component, but this is actually defining the purpose of that image wrapper.
And why is it not part of the component?
Because we are using
or why is there no component?
The layout to call.
Okay.
Yeah, we are using the layout to call here. Yeah. And the power we have here with layout to call is that, let's say I want to change the spacing between these sections. I can just do this and it will work for both of them. And that's why I'm using global to call here. I mean the layout to call, that is global.
Sure.
And yeah, let's go back. One more thing to increase, let's say you have a section. Let's say in this section, I'm going to replace the image with what we have on the website. If you feel like you want to increase the space on the left or right side, something like this, and you don't want to disturb the global structure there, what you can do is simply use our combo class naming. So you can you can type here something like this, layout to call. You can type here is meet OS. This is the very first option, or you can get more creative. If you want to read this as a sentence, you can type here is for meet OS. This is the options you can do, and then you can have a different ratio applied to them based on the section.
Nice. And this allows you to, again, reuse the element, but modify the styling or the spacing just a bit, because here we can see the image on the right is just a little wider than the image on the top. And so if we go back and look at our reference site, we can see that that kind of layout is happening here as well. The other thing that happens a little bit harshit here is that we lose on the right side. Yeah. How did you handle that spacing there? That switch, because in your section, we're kind of inside that global padding. What are we doing to address that?
Yeah, so I actually did what I did here basically is I have this section with me, the section meet OS, and here the padding I'm using again is padding vertical huge. I can always rearrange the sizes here. So if I want, let's say, a huge here, I can always go back and select the huge sizing based on the size that I need. And in terms of spacing in my layout to call, because I applied this combo class that says is for meet OS, I can always change this based on my need, and it's not going to affect other ones.
Yeah, what I'm saying is on the example site, you can see this the image is pushed all the way to the right, so there is no padding or margin on the right side of that image. So how would we adjust for that inside of that inside of the arrangement you're building here?
Okay. Nice. That's a nice question. And here comes the flexibility of my this image wrapper. What I can do is simply I can give a negative margin to my meet OS image wrapper. And what I will do is give it a negative margin, let's say of 5 rams. Okay. So what do we have padding? So we have 2.5. So I will simply give this a negative margin of 2.5. This image is, there we go. This is what I will do to make it expand. So it is actually expanding. So if I go to the smaller screen, you can see it is expanding, but because we have a maximum width set in the container, it's not going to expand after that. So I think I expanded too much. So let's go to maybe 1920. You can see my website actually stops here, but in reality, what I did, I actually applied a negative margin equal to my padding so that I can meet the boundary. You can see it's lining perfectly with it.
Yeah, and that does, in that view, if we look at it here, it's real close to how that lines up. So nice. Okay, great.
Nice. Yeah. And that's why I used the image wrapper. That gave me the flexibility. If I have used a global image wrapper, that could have messed up the section right here.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, and Carly's saying here that this all makes sense. Love the flexibility too. Yeah, Carly, this is one of those things that once you start understanding how this system works, how client first, the global classes and the global structure works with custom classes, it's like a hybrid approach to what like I was doing before. It's like it's still the same flexibility to create a bunch of custom classes, but there's these global systems and global components that I can use to kind of shape and outline and handle things, spacing, margin, padding, etc., on a global scale. That really makes a big difference on the build. So yeah, for sure.
And then also when you are naming those custom classes, to have some guidelines on how to stay organized for that. That what Reimar said is equally as important, having these global settings, but also not everything's global. Like Harshit just said, if this was global, this could have messed up. This could have been something very difficult for the rest of the project if we're reusing this. So having structure for how we name custom classes is just going to make everything more clear. And that's a big, big part of client first.
Yeah.
Nice. As I can see in the live website, that that this watch button, okay, I will also cover this trick here really quick. So what I did here, basically, because this button was black by default, so what I basically did is I went inside this filter option and I selected the invert option. So invert of black is white, and that's how I actually made this white. Yeah, but this is something that is not always recommended. Okay, the better way to do this is either use a embed and then change the color from text option, or maybe just place the white image directly. Yeah.
We have a great question from David. And David asks, why layout to call and not about component about layout to call? Now, this is actually how I would have done it. This does not mean it's right or wrong. That's usually when you're building, not many things are right or wrong. It's just different strategies. So Harshit, tell us the strategy, why you've named it like this instead of putting that layout to call inside of the component name.
Nice. Yeah. So I actually did that because of the purpose. I'm going to use this section. So as you can see, I just copied and pasted the section, and I will just remove this image wrapper class. There we go. And now you can see I just removed the combo class, and my new section is ready, and it's ready to use, right? I just did that for efficient process, I can say, right? Because it's not actually disturbing the flexibility. It's giving me the equal flexibility, and we have both of the options here. So I personally prefer to go with this option. You have both of the options. It's not like right and wrong. Yeah, as Joe said.
Nice.
Exactly. And David, maybe you want to put this in an about component. Based on your build, maybe you look at this and say, this should be in a component. I don't want layout to call to be managed globally, but maybe you do want it managed globally. That's the power of the decision-making process in client first, that you should be deciding this based on your project, your build, how you're looking at it. And the only requirement is that it's clear for the next person that jumps in.
Nice. Exactly. Got a question here from Steven Hilario saying, I started applying CFDS class names to my Figma layers. The process helps me transition from Figma to Webflow. That's not the one this is the one. Okay. Can the padding vertical go before the container? I was like, that doesn't sound like a question. Okay. Can the padding vertical go before the container? Harshit, can you explain the padding vertical and how that's being applied there?
Yeah, definitely. It works. You can actually take out padding vertical before the container as well. It will work the same. Yeah, there might be some use cases where you have to take some decisions, but in this case, it's perfectly fine for me to place that outside the container as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maria, I'll have to rewatch this so many times. The view count will be astronomical. Well, hello, Maria in the future, as well as Maria in the present. So thanks for hanging with us. And thanks. If you watch us in the future, just know we're saying hello again. And we didn't really set like a time limit to these. So if you got a dip for any reason, no big deal. We appreciate you hanging with us. We're going to keep building as long as Harshit's ready to go here. I think we're going to get through the full page, or what are you thinking, Harshit? What should we go through here? And if you have any specific questions at this point, if you'd like to see, like something that, might clarify something for how you apply this for yourself, now's the time to leave this in the question. Share your thoughts if you have something specific you'd like Harshit to cover, and let us know what you'd like to see us cover next. Should we do more like this? I did see some comments about view count going up if we continue to do this type of event. So yeah, tell us what you'd like to see, and any other questions you might have as we go through the rest of this.
Let's bring up this comment from Kai Jolly. Client first was a whole new way of working inside Webflow for me. It took a while to change habits and learn this new way of building, but man, once you get grips with it, he loves it. Kai's been using Webflow for, I don't know, since Webflow existed, like 6 or 7 years. He was one of the first leaders of the showcase. I mean, and he's been building beautiful sites since a very long time. So this is just such a great comment to see that people who have been using this tool for years and years are finding value in this. And that's really a beauty of it, that you can be a seasoned pro like Kai. You can be brand new to Webflow as of last week, and this system can work for you. And this,
speaking of, I want to show you a little bit of Kai's stuff, because like when I found Kai's like portfolio here, Kai, you did some stuff with 3D interactions here that, just are pretty trippy inside of Webflow. Let me go back. There's another one I wanted to show too. Joe, since you opened the door here, this one, Webphonic Solids, this thing right here. All native interactions, 3D shapes. This is literally all inside of Webflow natively here. So showing how the shapes are created and how this is kind of put together. But yeah, if you don't know Kai Jolly, we're going to put Kai in the, that's not what we wanted to do. I wanted to Control C. There you go. Everybody go give Kai a follow on the Webflow Showcase and share some love with him for some of that work, explore some of those things. But brilliant designer, and yeah, making the switch to client first is it's a little bit of a challenge, right? It's something that you got to think through a little bit, and especially if you've been working with Webflow for a while, it's a little bit of a transition, but it will help you be a little more productive and a little more efficient. And more than anything, the moment, like how many times have you built a project and then you go in, I don't know, 6 months later, a year later, and you're just like, what the hell is this? Like, where did I put everything? And so this will help you kind of like create a little bit of consistency in that stuff, so that when you go into these projects later down the road, or again when the client goes into them, that they'll be able to understand and decipher what's happening here without a lot of struggle.
Exactly. That's great.
Okay.
And
where are we at here?
Harshit making huge progress as usual. Not surprised. We have a new section. It looks like we're working now on the full size section. The full size Chromebooks come in all shapes and sizes. It looks like we're going to have some images that expand the full size of the screen. So it'll be nice to see again how this page padding is going to play a role in this.
Nice.
And there we go. Nice and organized. Always applying your colors as swatches. Please, if you are building in Webflow and you are using colors and you're going to use that color more than once, you should be adding that in your swatches. This is going to give you great global control of your colors.
Yeah.
And as of a few weeks ago, you don't have to worry about the order that you create them in, because the Finsweet extension will let you reorder those global swatches.
I was just going to say that now you can reorder those swatches. So I'm always surprised when I open people's Webflows projects and there's not a swatch panel in there. And I'm just like, what are you even doing? This hurts my soul.
Oh my gosh, I know. Like even using the text color black, if you're going to be using text color black, put that in a swatch. It's going to give you unbelievable global control of that black color. Maybe you want to change it to 1A, 1A, 1A instead of zeros. It's just so powerful. So
but do it with your text. If you're not doing it with everything.
Yourself.
Do it with anytime you use a color, it should be a swatch. Because if for some reason down the road you want to make a change, you're going to have to go through and manually update all that. Versus if you do it right from the get-go as a swatch, it's literally a one-click change. So David's asking a question here. Do you think Client First is suitable for Wix or WordPress? I don't think so, mostly because you don't really name classes in those programs. So the approach to think about it, I don't know. I just don't know how it translates to either of those platforms, mostly because, again, like you don't name classes in those systems. You don't really build the structure of the page in those systems. You're just kind of modifying containers and stuff. Now, if you're building the theme, if you're actually writing code, sure, you could use this stuff in other ways. But any other thoughts about that, Joe?
Yeah, I don't know enough about Wix to make a comment on that. And WordPress, yeah, I don't see it working as well. You know, we built the system for Webflow, and there's actually a number of decisions that were made specifically based on how Designer works as a platform. So I would guess that there's a bunch of decisions that work great in Webflow, but when you convert that to something else, just may not be the best way to do it.
Yeah,
maybe.
For sure.
I don't know.
For sure. I could see that. Let's see. Jay saying that talking about the extension, literally just use organizing interactions and brought the one I was working with to the top, and damn. Yeah. It's definitely, I don't know how many times I would be building interactions and sometimes you want to add another state, or what's worse is, let's say you build something and then when you go to do the responsiveness, you realize that you have to recreate one of the interactions and customize it for like a smaller breakpoint. And somehow that's not in order, right? And then they're completely detached from themselves. And so the ability to reorder those interactions is huge. All right, where we at, Harshit?
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm working on, I just finished the CTA section. So I want to explain a few things here before we make more progress. So what I did with these buttons, you can say I'm using the main button class here, but there were some gray buttons in my build. So what I did is I created a combo class that says is gray. So whenever I'm using a button, what I can do, I can simply decide that with using this gray combo class, I can have a gray button, I can have a blue button. So this is something that I wanted to point out. And let's see the structure of this home CTA. So I'm taking this section as a CTA sections, and I named this as CTA underscore component. Again, there can be multiple branches when it comes to naming for this section. If you are using this section only on the home page, then you can name it home CTA underscore component. It doesn't need to be CTA underscore component. But I named this CTA component because there is only one section of this type in the whole page, and maybe if I create more pages, I'm going to reuse these sections, and that's why I named this as CTA underscore component.
Nice.
Then inside that, you can see that I have again placed image wrapper outside my page padding because I wanted this image to expand to the full width. And now because it's not having the container, it's going to expand even more than what we want. So if I go to 1920, you can see that it's expanding more than what we want. So what we can do is here, again, I will set a max width to this CTA underscore image wrapper. I will set a max width to 1440 pixel. And what I can do is I can simply type 1440 divided by 16 rem. So here it's converted to rems, and I will simply center align it. It's now aligned with the rest of the website. And let's see inside what we have. So we have CTA underscore image wrapper. Then we have CTA underscore image. That's a single image that's taking 100% of its parent. And I am having a negative margin right here to make sure that it's aligned perfectly like this.
All right, let's take Harshit to task real quick. I've got the example website here on the page open in the browser, and yeah, it's looking pretty clean, pretty similar here. So, and again, we're about an hour and a half in, and we've got the base layer in. We're not talking about interactions. We're not talking about like the fancy embellishments and the finishes. But yeah, it's good progress here for sure. What's up, Brandon? Jumping in here.
And,
go ahead.
I'm loving the use of this CTA component name. This is a power move, and I bet that if we were to continue building pages in this project, this would be reused. This could be a symbol that you set up for your clients that will help them build pages. A lot of these could be symbols, actually. You could symbol this entire page and build a landing page system for your clients. Now, this is not a growth episode. This is not about sales, but that is a juicy add-on to any project. Showing the client how you can build a symboled project for them, allow them to drag and drop things into the page and create their own custom pages, reordered pages with symbols. And the use of this CTA underscore component is telling me that Harshit may do that if we were to continue building. So really nice. Love the naming here.
Nice, nice, nice.
Nice. Again, I would like to share a very small trick for client first. So what I have here with me is I have page padding, container large, and padding vertical. I have always, I keep this always below all of my sections. So whenever I create a new section, I don't have to create div blocks and rename them. What I simply do is I just copy this and paste it inside my div block. And once I'm done with section, I simply delete this thing. So it's following these simple tricks, you can actually speed up your process in an efficient way. Yeah. So
Hey,
I really like
Harshit,
sharing these small tips. Yep.
real quick, this is just a nitpicky thing. Your MacBook on the left is cut off. That should be fixed to the left side of the screen so that we never end up with like a monitor just cut in half there. How would you fix that?
Yeah, so I will simply remove the max width from here and it will always going to stick on the left. But the problem here is with image. We actually recommend to have a max width set to our screens. And in this image, it's actually the image is faulty where we have this cropped image. So if I want to expand it completely, I will simply remove the max width and it will expand. Even if I go to a very big screen, let's go to 2500, you can see it's expanding, but I don't want that. That's why I set a max width here.
But we should want that because that's how the site is, right? Like we're trying to recreate the site here.
It
right?
is.
No.
We're kind of. So I'll take this one. We are recreating this site, but we are setting a max width on everything. This site is built to scale to any size. I'm on a 3,400 whatever pixel screen, and if you make that the entire thing, the entire site becomes 3,400 pixels. I'm not a huge fan of this. Our clients don't ask for this unlimited scaling. And actually most Google pages are not built like this, but this one happens to be built like this. So we are building this page, but we are not building the full viewport width version that makes this text gigantic and the images gigantic on the screen. And this image itself is cut off in itself. It's not being cut off by the div wrapper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfectly
I'm just
fine.
playing
We are
devil's
actually
advocate.
making the fixed version of the website.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate. If we're building this site, I'm just nitpicking over here. Okay. Tell me to shut up if you want.
Well, I was talking to Harshit about this yesterday. He made the comment, it scales the entire screen. And I said, I don't really want websites like that. Like I have it open completely large on my screen, and I actually have to turn my head to read a single line of text, which is just kind of feels ridiculous to me. So yeah, we're building the version of this that our client would ask for. And how Google builds most of its pages. This is like we looked at a bunch of Google pages, and most of them are not built like this. They're built in this way that we're presenting. So yeah, we could build the full scaled version, and actually probably with just a few edits we'd be able to fully scale this out, but not today.
Let's see. Carly Bruce is saying this always trips me up, actually, those extra large screens and how to handle the design. Well, now you did. Now you know. You can put them inside of containers with max width, and you can achieve a very similar look with some constraints for those larger screens so that you don't have that. Yeah. And if you're just joining us, I see some new folks jumping on the stream here. We are rebuilding the google.com Chromebook website here, which I'll show you on this screen. So Harshit has been building since the beginning this switch to Chromebook, and he's going through here. We're right at about this section here. So these three little sections right before the footer. And so, yeah, we've been at this for about an hour and a half here. And I think other than the footer, we're pretty close to the end here. So again, no interactions. We're not recreating the full website. We're not like going in and doing all the interactions and whatnot. What we wanted to show as part of this process was the structure, the layout, how you organize the page, and how with Client First you build nesting the elements and using global paddings and using some of the efficiencies of the system. So yeah.
And this is really nice for featured. After we build this out, Harshit, let's do a search in the panel and show everybody how our featured component returns, how our CTA component returns. Featured here has some new classes. We have the featured item. We have the featured image wrapper. This section needs custom classes, and it's all really organized in this feature component prefix. So when you have a chance, we'll do some searches inside that style panel of featured, CTA, about, all the different keywords that we're using, and we'll show you how keeping these keywords and prefixes organized will just help you work better and smarter and faster.
Nice.
And also notice how featured is the first word here. A lot of times, maybe you'll use the word featured, but it's image wrapper featured, or image wrapper home, or 3-col featured. And now this featured word is not the first word. It's not the prefix. It's not what you can easily search by using featured underscore inside the styles panel. So making sure the order of your keywords is really well thought out, and making sure that it's easy to read, easy to scan. We can see opening right now, all those featured keywords were right in front of our face. Very easy to scan in Navigator.
I saw here Pablo Cortez was saying, I hope Webflow adds CSS clamp soon. This is one of those styles that we have in the global styles embed that's a symbol in the Client First project. So this is one of those things that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but it's in that global styles symbol that we included with the Client First builds, because it's such a powerful feature.
Yeah, let's show that feature.
Sure, Harshit, please.
Yeah, there we go. So we actually have a global class for it. So if you want to clamp the paragraph, let's say I will take example of this paragraph. I want to limit this paragraph up to 2 lines. So I can simply type here text style. So I see, because when I type text, I can see a lot of things here. I can become more specific. I can simply type text style. Now I can see 2 lines and 3 lines. I can simply select 3 lines. So it will limit the paragraph to 3 lines. I can select text style 2 lines as well, and it will limit up to 2 lines. So we have those globals in. And if you want
show them
to
where
change
those
the numbers,
are,
you can always go inside.
Yeah. Show them how to get to that.
There we go. So we have this global styles as a symbol. We just need to go inside this global style, and you can see the very last code that we have is actually for those text clamps. So if you see the class text style 3 lines, we are using this class. If you want to change the numbers, you can always open this embed and you can change the numbers. You can create your own as well. If I want to create a style 4 lines, I will do it from here.
Nice. Great. Yeah, we've thought a lot about this. I mean, and obviously, look, we use Webflow every day, right? We're building and playing and exploring with this all the time. And so we've taken as much of that knowledge as possible and put it into this client first system to make up for whatever shortfalls we might have, to what shortfalls Webflow might have, to make it more efficient. We've kind of put all the little tricks and hacks inside the bag, and together with the extension, this is going to make for a really powerful suite of Webflow tools, and we'll continue to improve that. So if you see other things like this, if there's other things that might make sense to include in there, or you might want to do it on your own end, if there's some custom CSS snippet that you're always using in your projects, go ahead and throw it into your global styles like that. And that way, every time you start your project, you have those things in there, and you don't have to remember where you copied and pasted it from, or where did you find that certain document. It's like, put it one time in your project and then just duplicate that project every time, and now you have that as a starting point. So just a few thoughts for efficiency working with this stuff. Let's see. Okay. All right. So where are we at on the build here? Go ahead, Joe.
Making the footer, last section. I don't want to forget before we sign off to do those searches inside styles panel. That's just one of my
I don't think we need to.
parts.
I don't think we need to go through the footer's pretty straightforward, I think, and I think we have enough of the page here for people to get the gist. Let's go through some of that searching stuff, and let's go through and whatever we got to wrap up here for the folks to go through what Joe's kind of talking about there.
Sure.
And also,
so here we
we
go.
are
when we have this. Okay. Yeah, please go ahead, Joe.
no, please continue.
Yeah, so I was actually talking about the featured search here. So what I can simply do here, whenever I have a div block, I will show you the search feature. When I'm typing featured here, I can see all the class related to my featured section. And same goes with all the components that we are using.
Right. So this makes it real easy to
So let's
find
see that
the various
CTA also.
components. Yep. Search for something else there, like
And now,
CTA.
and now imagine also bigger sites. You have a home page, about page, a contact page, and you start adding those page names into that component name. Now you can run searches inside your build throughout different pages, throughout different component types. And if you're really organized about this and you plan out what your components are named before building, you now have this really powerful search system right inside Designer. So this is something we thought about. This is part of the architecture of this system. So really nice to see this. And I just love being able to search like this. It makes the build a lot more clean.
Penny's asking here, and this is probably a good idea, will you make the read-only link for this page available so we can review it and rewatch the video over and over and over? Sure. We can for sure make that available to everyone who wants it. We can add it even to the description of the video on YouTube. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Penny, I'd like to do even more for you. I think that this was so beneficial for people watching that we should probably finish this up, clean it up, and then go and release this as a clonable.
Yep.
You should be able to clone this and continue building on it. We'll add it as a resource in the client first doc with the video added with it. Yep. So we can keep doing this. Every week we can do a new build, and in a few weeks we'll have a filled out resource center with clonables and videos to follow along with.
Nice. Great. Okay, if you're just joining us, go ahead and hit that like button. Appreciate you for stopping on the stream. We're at about an hour and 43 minutes. Harshit is over here building this page, and then Joe and I are doing our best color sports commentary. I don't think we're gonna have to practice our ESPN voices, Joe. I'm not sure we're like
we do.
Okay. Nice. Okay. Well, I think, should we leave it at that? Do we want to build the footer live here, or what are we thinking? What's the move here?
Nice.
I
You know
promise
what?
what's that? Go ahead.
Let's continue with the footer. Why not? We're
Yeah.
going to post this live. Maybe somebody does have a question about the footer. We still have a strong watch crowd. What are we? An hour and 45 minutes in, and we still have most of our crowd here watching us. So great. Thank you all for sticking around here. This has been great. And look at this. Okay. I'd love to talk about this. Harshit, keep going. This is great. We see footer underscore heading. This is now a rare case where applying this custom class to the text element is going to be great for us. I love applying these custom classes to the nav component and to the footer components. Why? When we have a whole bunch of headings, we may want to update them globally. And usually the nav and the footer just don't exactly follow all the practices of our default sizes. So we're using the H4. That H4 may not be the default. We can use our heading small or heading medium classes that we have, but that means if I wanted to make a change to that footer heading, I would have to update each one of those classes. And since we have a whole bunch of columns in our footer, we want that global class for the footer to be able to change those headings across all of our columns. So this is a great use case. This is exactly how I would do it. And I bet as he continues building here, we're going to see footer underscore link. And that's going to give us a lot of global power inside that footer.
Nice. All right. And it looks like we've got some grids that we're using for this. Harshit, can you explain why I use grid here versus like just items inside of a box? I know the main footer for the columns, but why nest a grid inside of the grid?
Yeah, definitely. I actually find using grids and footer more flexible when making it responsive. So when I'm making a decision here, I am not considering the PC version only, but I'm also considering the mobile version or tablet version that I will do later on. Okay, so let's say I'm on my tablet version. With grid, I can simply make them 2 column like this. There we go. I don't have to set a width to my footer column. Simply I can just go here and change the grid. So I feel like it's more flexible, but again, there is not a fixed way to do that. You can adapt with best practices, and you can do whatever you feel is flexible for you.
Nice. Oh, you know what? Okay. I lied. I actually do have a 2 o'clock that's off site that I have to run, that I have to go to. It's about 5 minutes from here. So I'm okay for approximately another like 7 or 8 minutes, but should probably wind down. I actually just looked at my calendar and realized that.
Nice. Okay, so this footer is just about done. We can probably just start wrapping this up. If anybody has any last questions here, we can answer those. Like I said, we're going to finish this up, make sure it's all clean and crispy, offer it as a clonable, release the video with it. This will be in the resource section of Client First, probably by early next week.
Nice. Can we throw a preview link in the comments, or the Harshit? Can you throw a preview link in the comments just so that people can have that before that happens?
Here we go. Nice. It's actually reaching the limit, the 200 words limit.
The preview link?
Oh, yeah. I had that problem in the past.
That's okay. All right. Well,
all right. How about this? Do half of it, send it as one message, and then the other half, and we'll have people put them together.
All right.
Yeah, let's try this out. It's hard to actually
identify
where I'm breaking. Okay.
Copy.
Just send it to me in Slack, and I'll throw it in the link shortener real quick. Just send it to me in Slack.
Nice. That's
okay.
That's
I actually shared half of the link. Okay.
And
stop my screen share really quick.
Yeah, I promised for the loyalist a behind the scenes shot of the studio here. So here we go. This entire stream literally just happened in eventually be on the road. So yeah, let's see if this can hold up while we're out there doing the thing. And so let's take it back to this site. Oh, you know what? Do I have back to this? All right. So we're going to leave it at that. I think that's the gist of building this switch to Chrome site. We've got the preview from Harshit, this link here. Yeah, that's the site that was built. And let's see if we have a link shortener. I don't even know which one. It's like bit.ly, right? There we go. Get started for... Oh, I used to just be able to like, just drop the link in like it was just a one. There we go. It's like, okay, copy the URL. I'm sorry for whatever tracking code this just applied. I'm gonna share this in the chat now. And there you go. Y'all have the preview link. I'll pin that to the top. That's the preview link for the Webflow build there that Harshit was doing live with us. And this video will be available immediately on YouTube. Feel free to watch it and look back on that. The live replay is available. So let's see. Yo, what is that secret agent case? Yeah. How many screens did you break making the rig? One. And it was so dumb. You'll see. I'm putting a video together of making it, and it annoys me to no end because it was literally just a stupid mistake. I put it in the top rail and I stepped back to look at it and it fell over, and that's when it cracked the screen. So anyway, I had to order a new monitor, and I'm still a little worried about the monitor surviving a flight, but we'll see. We're going to test this thing out, and yeah, hopefully I got a pretty robust little stream set up here on the road. So Joe, Harshit, any thoughts as we go?
I'm excited for next week. I think it's clear that we're going to continue doing this structure, this type of content. You all loved it, and yeah, I'm really excited to build next week. Soon we'll have something up for you to tell us what to build. We're actually working on it. It's going to be a whole community voting and recommendation system, and you'd be able to tell us what to build for these Thursday streams.
Great. Awesome. Okay, well, with that, we'll leave it. Harshit, do you want to say some final words here before we close out?
Yeah, so as Joe said, I'm also very excited to see more of these streams. I really enjoyed this, and I really enjoyed the interaction that was coming in, because a lot of good questions were asked, and I think as we cover more websites, we will be able to cover more use cases, and that will help all of us to take decisions and actually decide the strategy that we should go for in particular use cases. So I'm really excited for that, and see you guys in the next week.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Thanks everyone for hanging with us. With that, we're going to kill the stream, and we'll catch y'all next week. We'll let you know otherwise. But until then, let's plan on meeting here each Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. Bye, everyone.